Aliens Colonial Marines was released on multiple platforms in 2013 by Gearbox, but who cares? Hey there, just a quick note to let you know that there's some mild spoilers for the first 2 Alien movies in this review, so watch out if you haven't seen them yet. Yes, you read that right, I actually played this game. Even after being told by everyone on the planet that it was the biggest piece of garbage ever, I still held on to the belief that, well, it couldn't be that bad, could it? Oh, how wrong I was. Curiosity killed the fucking cat. Before I really get into the meat and potatoes of this game, I need to address the massive controversy that surrounded this game upon its release. When this game was shown at trade shows like E3 and PAX, it looked a hell of a lot different than it did when it came out. The actual game looked and played significantly worse, so a class action false advertising lawsuit was filed, claiming that Gearbox and Sega deliberately misled their customers. Also around the time of release, someone came forward to Destructoid and told them that Gearbox had been taking people and resources off of the game in order to use them for Borderlands instead, but they were still taking all of Sega's money to make Aliens Colonial Marines. Apparently, Sega discovered this misconduct and cancelled the game for a time, causing a round of layoffs at Gearbox. And if you think that's scummy, I'm not even finished yet. Apparently, most of the development of this game was contracted to outside studios instead of Gearbox even doing it themselves. This clusterfuck basically led the game to be rushed through redesigns, certification, and shipping, even though it was still largely unfinished. Just imagine working at one of those studios. You've got Gearbox breathing down your neck so they don't get fucked, even though they probably shouldn't be subcontracting to you in the first place, and you're rushed through everything like crazy. Not only are you put under the crunch, after all that you're basically forced to ship a game that isn't finished and is considered one of the worst games ever made.
Golf clap? Golf clap.
Now that we know the history of this game, and why it was really doomed to be a disaster, let's talk about just how shitty it really turned out to be. The story of Colonial Marines takes place about 4 months directly after the Aliens movie. After a message is sent back to the Marines about what took place there, a team is sent to go check it out. After the Marines discover that Weyland-Yutani is doing experiments with the xenomorphs, again, they are swiftly attacked and regroup in the ruins of the nearby colony that was overrun in the Aliens movie, Hadley's Hope. Whoever wrote this game didn't seem to give much of a shit about the lore of the franchise. They strung together events and characters from the movies, but they don't make any sense. For example, the writer obviously didn't watch the end of Aliens because Hadley's Hope is completely destroyed at the end of that movie. I'm talking leveled by a thermonuclear blast destroyed. I'm not really a huge fan of this franchise, but even I noticed quite a few fuck-ups. Like, why are there 8 billion xenomorphs running around? Aliens made it very clear that they need hosts to reproduce, and Hadley's Hope had a very limited human population, so the number of enemies in this game is completely impossible. You can't just make the xenomorphs into generic enemies that spawn everywhere. It makes no goddamn sense. Another big fault is that the game doesn't really look or feel like an Aliens game. There are certain areas ripped straight out of the first 2 movies, but the other areas look copy and pasted from generic assets. Aliens Colonial Marines is a somewhat older game that came out for the last generation of consoles, so I didn't really expect it to look astounding. For the most part, it looks alright, but there are certain things that look completely terrible, like these cables, for example. The aliens themselves often walk around looking like they crapped their pants, and the character models look like the actors they are supposed to represent, but their movements, especially their faces, are pretty stiff. I will give the game some props for the lighting effects. They aren't drop-dead amazing in any way, but they aren't terrible either. If effort had been spent in other places, I think the lighting would have helped to add to the mood of the place. But as it is, it's just nice lighting effects stuck over crap. All of the frankly underwhelming graphics would have been serviceable if we hadn't all been treated to the bullshit fake trailers beforehand, and if this wasn't a bigger budget title. When those factors are taken into account, as well as the endless glitches, the graphics and animation in this game are way less forgivable. Not only do the levels not really look very good, they aren't designed all that well either. There are a lot of annoying choke points that are difficult to get past, awful cover placements, and absolutely horrendous checkpoints. Playing this on anything other than an easy difficulty had me absolutely raging at the game for constantly killing me in stupid areas and having to restart way back in the level due to the stupid, shitty checkpoint placements. Not to mention that if you get sent back to a checkpoint that has a story event attached to it, you're gonna have to sit and watch it all over again. This is infuriating when you have to wait for an incredibly slow NPC to finish a task. All of these events should be skippable, but they aren't. I'd be fine with the challenge of sparser checkpoints if the gameplay was any good. It should be a fairly typical first-person shooter, but somehow even that was screwed up. My guess is that they were trying for a Deus Ex-like system where you have to upgrade your guns to make them useful, but it doesn't work in the least. And if that isn't what they were going for, then damn, son. At some point in the game, I gained enough points to upgrade one of my rifles to use a laser sight, but it never worked correctly. The sight would always seem to point at the target before my actual gun sights did, which felt extremely disorienting. What good is a laser sight that spears off to the left of my barrel anyway? Even without the shitty laser sight, aiming felt floaty and weird on almost every single gun. It was annoying enough that I began to seriously question whether or not this was supposed to be in the final game or not. After all the shenanigans with the development of this game, perhaps I'm not too far off there. The shooting is totally fucked up. Oh yeah, and for some reason you can carry like a zillion weapons at once, but you have to go through a bunch of menus to switch them, which takes a while and isn't really intuitive at all. The Marines in this game shouldn't look like this. They should really look like this. If screwing up the most important part of a first-person shooter wasn't bad enough, all of the AI in the game is complete and utter trash. Every single one of your teammates is a useless twat of the highest order. They are unable to revive you if you're downed, leading to a game over if you die, which is awesome when you just see them standing over your body. And they have serious pathing issues, constantly getting stuck in random places and going the wrong way. Even worse is that they will frequently get in your way and get you killed, usually at the worst possible moment too. I've always said that having companions with terrible AI is worse than being alone in a game, and this one does nothing but reinforce that view. The enemy AI is a pretty mixed bag. Playing on a harder difficulty, we found xenomorphs that were both insanely accurate and insanely stupid. The ones that didn't seem to work properly would get stuck in terrain, not notice we were standing there even if we shot at them, go off the wrong way, and all sorts of other idiotic things. The ones that did work were absolutely insane. They would run up so fast they looked like they were teleporting and then they would hit like a Mack truck. Speaking of hits, those were always extremely random as well. Getting hit directly by an enemy could either kill you in one hit or only take some of your health. It was nigh impossible to tell what the difference was. Consistency is right out the window. In an effort to be fair to this game, I tried to think of something positive, and I guess it's that the co-op works fairly well. All of the issues I mentioned before are still in place, but adding in friends doesn't overly break the game. Having more people in-game actually makes it possible to be revived, but at the same time the balance is whacked as it increases the difficulty by a huge margin, and doesn't fix that consistency problem at all. In a move I'm sure nobody predicted, the reviving of your teammates is done in the most boneheaded way possible. Like any other FPS, you hold down a button to help your teammate up, but it doesn't actually tell you that you need to hold that button down, nor does it indicate how long you should do it for either. You have to hold that button down until the other player actually stands up, but you probably won't find that out until you've fucked it up multiple times first. Oh, and another fun thing! When I got this game on Steam, thankfully for almost nothing, it randomly gave me the pre-order DLC, which included Ripley's gun. When I used a flamethrower that was attached to that gun, it would instantly crash everyone that didn't own the DLC too. Amazing work, you guys. Simply astounding. Adding to this parade of failure is the sound, which completely fails in every way. When they aren't just recycling iconic themes from the movies, the music is there, I guess. The only times I really remember the music is when it would start up to signify a battle was imminent, and how that would sometimes happen at completely inappropriate times. If they were trying to ramp up tension in this game at all, they failed spectacularly hard. I mean, the second movie was mostly an action film, but even it knew how to build up tension. The first half of that movie is almost completely devoid of xenomorphs at all, but is very effective at building up the tension for when they show up. Aliens Colonial Marines is anti-tension. Between the terrible gameplay, story, and AI, it made me feel nothing but intense frustration and anger.
God, they put these aliens and they're not even scary.
They're just annoying.
Yeah. God, how do you fuck this game up so much?
You can throw in music stingers and lighting effects all day, but without the skill to build up that tension, it's a wasted effort at best. Can someone tell me if they were trying to make this game scary or tense at all? 'Cause I couldn't tell, and that's pretty sad. Even some of the worst horror games out there at least give the appearance of attempting to scare, for fuck's sake. It also feels like many of the voice actors themselves knew that nobody gave a flying shit about this game. Their performances are all over the place, and Michael Biehn in particular sounds like he is on an entire box of Valium.
Figure out anyway. Enough to keep me alive without saying much.
I honestly feel kinda bad that awesome people like Lance Henriksen were part of this thing. What a disappointment, man. And you know what? Putting up with all of this crap for the 4-hour or so campaign might have been somewhat worth it if the story was good, but did you really expect it to be at this point? After the torture that is the gameplay, it has the audacity to give you one of the worst endings I've seen in ages. That bullshit ending made me want to drive my entire fist through one of my monitors. I would have preferred a NES game ending to what they put into this game.
We got everything.
That's it?
That's
it?
Do you want to do the DLC?
That's it? I went all through. I just went through all that bullshit. For that? Are you fucking serious? What the fuck?
After all of that, I feel I should let you know that there was a group of fans that made a very large mod for this game. Why? Hell if I know. Maybe they were so angry about pre-ordering this that they had to make it worth their time somehow. The mod tweaks quite a lot of the gameplay to make it a lot more playable, but it doesn't make this piece of shit worth a damn. I've heard people say that the multiplayer with the mod is worth it, but I can't be arsed to even care. If you want a cool multiplayer shooter with aliens, then just go play Natural Selection 2 or something. You can polish a turd until it shines, but in the end, it's still a ball of shit. It should be pretty obvious by now that I loathe this game, but to reiterate, everything about this game has issues, ranging from minor to absolutely massive. Perhaps someone who worked on this game gave a shit, but because Gearbox didn't, everything just fell apart. Nobody out there should bother with this game. If you're a big fan of the Aliens franchise, there's nothing here that will please you. It'll probably make you even angrier than I was. As for those who want to play this out of morbid curiosity like I did, well, you can give it a shot if you want, but it'll hurt. Aliens Colonial Marines was a complete train wreck, and I honestly believe it shouldn't have been released at all. Let's all just give our praise to Sega for giving the license to Creative Assembly so we could get Alien Isolation. As for Gearbox, go fall off a cliff. Thank you! Hey, thanks so much for watching my video. I really appreciate it after the suffering that was Aliens Colonial Marines. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and subscribe for even more. I've also got all those social media pages if you want to check those out. And if you want to help support this channel and make it grow, check out the link to my Patreon as well as my PlayAsia affiliate link. Thank you so much, and I'll see you all next time.